But if you have a message, you should be saying it loud and saying it often, right? So if you offer something, make sure that it is the cheesy thing about you, right?
Cheesy thing, okay.
Yeah, you want it to be cheesy, right? Grant Cardone is 10X for a reason, baby. What does he sell? Things to get you 10X, right?
Right.
So when you look at it like that, it's always your tag points that you're giving in a video.
Hey, that's the opener to this video. That right there was like, if I'm the real Bradley, I'm dropping a bomb on that.
Hell
that's
yeah.
huge. All right, so today I'm really excited. I got a good friend and a fellow blue collar homie, right? Came from the blue collar lifestyle, working for the white collar paychecks now. And so I'm excited about this one. We were actually just talking before this saying, hey, we got to save some stuff to talk about on the podcast because we could literally just shoot the shit all day, man. I appreciate you coming in. And just so you know, this is going out to mainly insurance agents. So I know a lot of people know who you are. But in the insurance community, maybe not so much. So go ahead and introduce yourself, man.
Fair enough. So I'm Cody Cornwell. I'm the head of marketing with Heavy Marketing. Recently, I've also been an addition to officially, Tommy's team with the Amazon automation stuff. So head of marketing over there as well. Just, like you said, really quick. I mean, I went from, welding pipe, and all of a sudden it's like a complete flip where now I'm working from a computer or mostly my phone.
It's a natural progression, isn't it? Right, from welding to like, isn't that normal? Like, doesn't every welder just get into marketing eventually?
Man, it was something too that I was like, this doesn't, because it didn't make sense for it's funny, the step progression thing is something big that me and my boy Ron are in right now. And it's actually one thing that kept me from making moves sooner. I was like, oh, but this doesn't make sense. This personality type doesn't then go and do this. And it's like, but life doesn't make sense. So get over it and take a risk.
Yeah, man. You think I ever freaking woke up and decided, hey, I'm going to go sell insurance? Like, I wasn't in school. And that's what's funny about, we joke. I mean, in the industry, everybody, in fact, I probably called 6 or 7 recruits today, right? People that were interested in coming on board. They didn't have a license currently. And one of the first questions I ask is, so like, why insurance? Because nobody just wakes up and wants to get an insurance. I mean, marketing, I guess, is a little bit more attractive, but tell me about that transition and how you make a transition from, because I know for me personally, I went through something similar where, man, digging ditches literally, like running equipment, running a shovel some days, like, I would do it all from laying pipe, not welding it, but laying the pipe to, asphalt to whatever. We were doing site development. So I know that transition to working in an office or in AC, and I know it's a little different, but how did that, like, tell me about that transitional phase and what took place in your life? Because often there's just a moment that happened that led you to now, not welding pipe and,
Right. So, I mean, I don't want to, get too far off, but I mean, the story, I really haven't told too much. So
okay,
cool. I appreciate you getting that out of me really quick. So I went to a trade school, right? I tell people, college is mostly, BS, but at the end of the day, there's some places to grab knowledge, and the technical school is what intrigued me. I'm actually learning welding. I'm not,
I was marine mechanics.
So yeah, you understand.
I'm not working on boats.
So, but it came down to, like, that was the move to make, because I didn't want to do, we were talking union before, right? I didn't want to go the union route, because now if I can learn faster and commit to grabbing education faster and progressing faster, it didn't matter. I still had to wait like 3 years to even take my weld test.
With the union, you mean?
Yeah. And it might not have been 3 years, but I believe it is, like 3 to 5 or something like that. And I was like, well, that doesn't make sense, but you got to learn the trade. So I went to a 9-month school and got recruited from my school before I even graduated. They were like, a recruiter came for a company in Montana. And they were like, this would be a guy that'd be good. I had to fly myself out there, and I was broke, right? Fly myself out there, take one of the hardest welding tests at 19 that most people don't pass when they're 30.
No kidding.
Like, even the unions, they don't run it's a restricted 6G.
For you welders out
there.
Yeah,
a restricted 6G pipe test, and we weren't allowed to use grinders.
Wow. Okay.
So it was like now you had to be so good you couldn't even use the tools you'll use in the field.
To fix your weld, like to clean up your weld type deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we weren't allowed to use that. It was extremely hard, and they're like, "This, you better start honing this in quick." And I was like, "Cool, I'm ready." So, you know, jump to Montana. I passed the test, and all of a sudden I'm 19. You know, making money that 30-year-olds would love to have. Right. Having a job where I'm running my own contracts, and that was at that time my freedom.
Right.
You know, I broke out of, you know, my parents are just, you know, in the lower class, right? We were always struggling, and it was like factory work and stuff like that. So I broke out, and now I'm kind of my own boss. That's how I felt until the long days started, you know. And then I was like, oh, this kind of, I was actually into it at first. I remember getting on you had to get on a security bus because you had national security clearance to get into the refinery. Okay.
This is like while you're testing still?
So no, I'm done now. But testing is consistently going on there. Okay. So every single weld was tested, and if you failed one weld, they would do 2 welds you did after that. And if either of those failed, you're fired. You're done. Oh man. Go find your other contract, right?
Did you ever fail a weld?
I failed a weld, and my tracer passed once. Okay. So I failed one test, and then both tracers passed, so I was good. But I would have anxiety every day. Yeah, you know. But people in the industry, they were really good with telling me, like, listen, man, it's not if you fail, it's when. Right. So
nobody's perfect.
Yeah. So, but with that all, I don't want to go into too much detail of that because that'll bore, you know, most of the people. But fast forward, you know, working those long days, I ended up getting sick. And blue collar lifestyle, right? You get sick, you keep working. All right, so I keep working. Well, all of a sudden, all my lymph nodes start swelling up. I can hardly breathe, and the security or the safety people had to come up.
This is pre-COVID. You're allowed to work when you're sick still,
right? Yeah. I think this was about 2015, 16. And all of a sudden, you know, I get so sick that my lymph nodes are swelling so bad that the collar of my welding shirt is sticking out. And safety saw it. I sweated through my leather welding gloves before 10 a.m. Like I was just sick as a dog, but I just kept working. They forced me to go to the hospital. They made me drive myself. I don't know how I got there, you know, but I got there. They were testing for cancer at one point because my blood tests were coming up so bad. Yeah. And ended up coming down of just very severe mono. Wow. So my girl's a nurse, probably ended up getting it through her type of thing. And I'm sitting there and they go, well, now, like, that's something that you can give people, right? They didn't listen to the doctors. They're like, just for safety reasons, we don't need you working at all. And normally we would fire you, but you're young and we appreciate your commitment. But this is a learning lesson. You're off for 3 weeks, no pay. And I'm like, just getting on my feet.
You think you're doing the right thing by trying to stay working, and then they give you 3 weeks off, no pay. And
so in that 3 weeks, I go from, you know, sports all year round growing up. You know, it's the first time that I could even self-reflect. Right. So I'm sitting there self-reflecting, and someone, I had called a mentor of mine, and he said, well, that's awesome. You're doing great things. He's like, and I'm like, but I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. Right. And that's everyone's question. It's like, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing, but you're in the rat race. You're kind of lost.
You don't get a chance to self-reflect, like you're saying. You don't really think about it, just action after action after action.
Most definitely. So it forced me to think about that. And one thing that he said that I tell everybody that even thinks about looking somewhere else is go to the people in the industry that you want to be at. Right. Offer them dinner. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And you might not be able to get to the boss, but maybe get to the people under them, or whatever it is. Start figuring out, is that lifestyle actually what you want? Right. So I did that, and these people are all divorced, drug addicts. You know, like, sure, you're making good money, but they didn't know how to spend it.
Yeah. So they were where you wanted to be, but they weren't who you wanted to be.
Right. Well, I was where I wanted to be. I was a contract welder. So then I'm like, okay, now I just got to go to more experienced people, you know, that have been in it longer, and they're all divorced, man. It's just like, I grew up in a military family, right? So I kind of equate it to that where, yeah, you have a family and you're making, you know, money for them, but you're never seeing them. So that relationship with your kids or your future wife and things like that, it's never going to be healthy.
Yeah, man.
So that was my first, like, I'm going to start looking places. And then that's where that transition that you were talking about, it all started when I started studying psychology. So
another natural progression, right? Another natural from welding to psychology to marketing. So yeah, don't put yourself in a box, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, and the big help, oddly enough, was Joe Rogan's podcast, because although it's not this inspirational thing, I think with the alpha male personality type, we don't want to question things. Keep working hard, shut up, keep your head down, and hopefully when you're 50, you can afford the things you want.
Yeah.
But then as I'm hearing him articulate thoughts that I've had, but I couldn't put them in words because I didn't understand the thought enough.
Right.
That's then when I started going.
That's deep. I don't know if you really understand how deep that is. Like, he said he had a thought that he couldn't really understand because he couldn't put the words to the thought. That's like, I mean, that sentence in and of itself, like most people you just like go through and you're like, yeah, whatever. Like, you don't really think about it because you don't take that time to self-reflect. You don't take that time to dive into it. So that's really cool because, I mean, that is the reality of what most people experience is they had the thoughts, they just didn't realize they had the thoughts, and then it hits them, and then they have that aha moment. They're like, oh yeah, man, that's. It's funny you say the word epiphany too, because I had an epiphany the other day. We'll maybe get into, but go ahead, man, continue. Because so basically you had that the thought progression to where you started to understand, okay, this is what I'm going through, this is where I'm at. Right. Now take me fast forward to.
So it was more of, because it wasn't that moment yet, right? It was more of allowing my mind to realize I don't know enough.
Yeah.
When you come from the small town, you don't know enough. You only know the certain things, right? So now my excitement for learning really kicked in, and I started diving into books. I couldn't find a mentor really, none that really knew too much. That mentor was a football coach.
So I was actually gonna to jump on that because he said, he's talking about welding and. He was blue collar and all this stuff, and he said one thing, and when he said it, I was thinking, man, not many people that are in that space or that are doing manual labor, that like I can tell you when I was doing construction, I didn't have a mentor. Like they're not really. So you say as a football coach, now we know it as a mentor, and you call it a mentor, but I bet you even at the time you probably weren't even. Really calling it a mentor. You're just like, hey, this is a guy that I trust. And
it was a guy that pulled me out of some deep depths in high school. Yeah. And I was going to not play football at one point, and he took me out to eat and was like, listen, man, think about this a little bit.
Right.
So, yeah, that was my first mentor, if that's how you want to look at it. That's how I look at it now. Everyone in my circle now I look at as a mentor. Like you said, podcasting, you learn things as you talk to people, and it's like, okay, that's someone now I'm going to look at for knowledge.
I'm a verbal processor, so I my wife, she loves to hate it, but I'm like, the epiphany, since we're going there, I guess the epiphany that I had the other day, and she was like, really, like that's what you're going to tell me? I'm like, babe, I get it. Like I'm just sitting here thinking like, what makes me different, or like what, like sometimes I'm like, man, why am I here, right? Like why me type thing? Like what am I doing differently? There's so many great people. What's making me? And I'm like, the epiphany I had was like, it's because I'm obsessed. Yeah. And she's like, that's it. That's like I could have told you that. Like I'm like, yeah, but that
to
is
understand it and feel it.
It's in a good way. Like I'm like obsessed, and it's just it is interesting. But my question, I guess, or my thing is, you had this bigger goal, even from the blue collar lifestyle, right?
Right.
Getting into welding, making that, like being a contract welder, all this stuff. I kind of settled into construction after a few failed attempts at business, and like I had gotten handed a moving company that I kind of ran it right in the ground because I was making good money, and I was 20, 21 years old.
Yeah.
And this guy was generous enough to really give me the moving company on a note, on a bar napkin, essentially. Say, hey, run it, build it, and pay me back over the next 12 months. And I ran it, and I ran it right in the ground. So after a couple failed attempts, I just thought, you know what? And I was young enough. I'm just meant to follow in my dad's footsteps and my family's footsteps, and there's nothing wrong with it. You know what I mean? Like, love my dad, love my family. Anybody that, I mean, some of them are freaking crushing it, making in the blue collar lifestyle.
Right.
So I just thought, you know what? I got to go back to that. Get into construction. Never really never really just like could think bigger than that. Yeah. And I got stuck in that. So like coming from a small town, being in that blue collar lifestyle, like did you ever experience that type of situation where you just felt like, hey, this is it, this is all my life is going to, or have you always been a big thinker and kind of a visionary in that sense?
So, I mean, I've always had big goals, very driven, but when you grow up obsessed, you know, I like that. Let's keep rolling on that, because you grow up obsessed and you're crazy. Yeah. You know, so I always knew I was going to do great things, and at the time, the great thing was pipe welding, right? And then I crushed it and did it by 19. But getting caught in it, when we would get on the security bus to go in, I remember looking at my hard hat, my lunchbox, going, you did it. You know, you didn't get stuck being broke working at a factory. This is going to set you up. Right. You know, you'll be able to do this the rest of your life. And I remember thinking back to like clips of movies where they're going to the dad's going to the steel factory, and I was like, that's what, and I envisioned it, and I was okay with it, and actually, you're really proud of it. Yeah. Because it is something to be proud of. You're able to now keep providing for a future family or a family that you have. There's nothing absolutely wrong with that. But then at a certain point, if it's not what you're wanting to do, and you continue to do it, subconsciously it's going to become an issue. Yeah. And that's, I think, when you get a lot of, you know, drinking, drugs, whatever it is, in some of those industries, on top of the failed relationships. I think there's a lot of people that I met that had major dreams, and you know, like you said, when they fail, so a lot of people just give up. Yeah. Because it's easier. Yeah. You know, it is.
Definitely. I think the you know, the conference that we were at just this last year, but the year before that conference was, if you don't quit, you can't fail. Like, you can't fail if you don't quit, and that is so true. But I think also sometimes it takes failure, actually all the time, I know it takes some failure to really figure out what you want to do. And even after that failure, you might not figure out what you want to do. So tell me, with that said, tell me about, he does marketing, he kills in marketing. If you don't follow him on Instagram, I got it up here, Cody_the Conqueror. Check out some of his content. It's killer content, dude. You crush it in that. And marketing now is your trade, right? Now marketing is your welding, right? Now, like, that is what you're doing to make money. So fast forward into this, obviously you've applied some of the same skills and you know, the same practices that got you good at welding and got you into the early age. You applied to marketing. So fast forward into kind of what you're doing today and the practices that you're still applying that transcend, because my goal with this podcast, as this person keeps calling me, my goal with this podcast was, like I told you before, to kind of bring you know, sound business principles and tactics and strategies to the insurance community, because oftentimes when we're paid a commission, right? Like I pay, my commissions go to my corporation, which then pays me a salary, which then employs a staff. Like, we're growing it as a business, right? And I didn't always do that. You know what I mean? Like, I literally, I left the company with 60 grand in debt, and I had about $30,000 to my name because I did it wrong. So I learned through that failure, but there are others out there in this insurance industry that, you know, aren't necessarily maybe running it like a business, or maybe don't understand. So talk about what you're doing today and the tactics and strategies that work, whether you're talking welding or marketing for that matter.
Well, I mean, to jump off or jump right into, I guess, you know, talking about being smart with your money. Yeah. First and foremost, something that I always believe in is, because I fell into it too, right? But then when that first scary moment comes and it reminded me of my childhood, I was like,
don't want to go back there.
Like, Profit First, specifically, that book is something I recommend to everybody, especially as a business owner. That book is very smart on making sure that whatever you're doing, you're making profit as a business owner, just as a person. Because if you're not, then you're just working for a business and calling yourself an owner. Right. You know, so that being said, my first thing was, okay, now I'm making good money. What's the lifestyle I want to live, including the massages I want, the burnouts I want to do, you know, all that. Ideal, what's going to cost me to, you know, survive a month, save that, you know, 6 months. Because now, if I want to even reinvent myself at some point, I now have 6 months to make that transition, to get the infrastructure in, and make sure that then what I did with that money, where I invested it, whether it was real estate, you know, crypto, stocks,
Amazon automation, whatever.
Exactly.
Right.
That I would be good. So I think that's one thing that people really need to, and it's not smart, in my opinion, right, to keep money in the bank account. So that was my big thing.
Definitely not, yeah.
You know, with inflation.
I didn't know where you're going with that. I got something that I want to say real quick, but I didn't know where you're going with that, and I thought you might be saying it's not smart. We definitely don't keep it in the bank. We don't even have to go any further on that. But I thought you might say it's not smart to invest it all back into the business. What's your thoughts on that? And I'm genuinely curious for myself, because when I look at my own net worth, my own, you know, situation, if you will.
Right.
Like, I don't have a ton of real estate. I don't have a ton of investments outside of my business, because right now this business is my best return, in my opinion.
Right.
But I'm just now getting to the point where, okay, now I'm starting to diversify, get into some other stuff. Like, at what point, or, you know, when do you think it's appropriate, or, you know, kind of elaborate on that?
I would say,
because you don't just start and put the money everywhere else.
I agree, yeah. So, I mean, obviously making sure that you're going to have some type of, I call it a safety net, but don't think that that's because it's just in case you fail.
Yeah, it ain't a plan B. Right?
Yeah, this ain't a plan B. It's if I decide I want to do something else.
Yeah.
Right? I now have that money that I can make any pivot that I need to make, and I still get to live a lifestyle that doesn't make me feel broke, because when you feel broke, you're going to do broke actions, and you're going to end up in that rat race again. That's
so true. Like the thoughts become feelings, and feelings become actions, right? Like, no matter what. And I had this morning on this board, I had survive and thrive, and I said, you know, what are the words you would use to describe someone that's surviving, right? And lazy, poor, broke, like all of those things would be used to describe that. So talk about marketing and like what you're doing today, what your business does. I know you and I have talked about it, and I'm excited to, you know, further our relationship and learn from you in that space, because I've been quoted saying, you know, 10 months ago, a year ago, actually it's been a couple years now, but when I first started in sales, I used to joke, okay, marketing is for people that couldn't sell. Like, that was my take on marketing. Like, marketing, I buy leads and then I sell them, and I don't need marketing for that. Right. Well, that was very short-sighted. and, you know, that was 4 or 5 years ago. So now I realize the importance of marketing. But there's other people out there that don't. But tell me about, like, the marketing you're doing now, because I know it's very unique.
Right. So it's digital marketing specifically, because the pandemic, Gary Vee said, history will prove people right and it will prove people wrong.
Right.
I saw, because of how I grew up and you know, the age that I'm only 25, right? So I saw things going digital. Mm-hmm. I also have a personality type that I would love interacting with people, but as soon as I can step away, I love to do it, right? I'm good at selling. But if I can pre-frame someone before they ever even get on the call, that makes it easier for my closing team.
Right.
And my boy Ron will sell anybody. He'll walk up on the street, you know, and sell somebody anything.
Sales God, baby.
Yeah. Sales God. Give that man a follow, you know?
He's got some good stuff too, at Sales God.
Oh, yeah. And that handle, man, it's
I can't believe it's available. Who do you have to pay to get that handle? Because
I can't talk about none of that. He definitely didn't pay, because Instagram would be very against that.
But it was taken or something, huh?
Yeah.
We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, we'll leave it there. But Sales God did his closing, right? So that being said, it's something where I also understand when people are like, you know, marketing is not needed. I'm good at what I do. People are going to talk. Right. Well, guess what? That will end.
Yeah, absolutely.
And on top of that, we're now in a digital world, again, especially, you know, since the, you know, pandemic and everything. Now, if I can get my word out, if I'm not marketing, it's like I'm just talking to a few people in the room. Right. But when you leverage that social media, you're now talking to a coliseum of people.
You're talking to everybody in the room from a stage, from a platform that you're building.
And if you want to go really deep into it, you look at how we've advanced as a society so fast. It's because of the communication that we are allowed with digital devices in our hands, right? Yeah. So then with that, why wouldn't you grow your impact, your message, give that out at a more efficient rate?
Yeah.
Like it's mind-blowing that people think that it's just word of mouth. So now when I'm running ads, it's also pre-framing as well, because you know, you were talking about the insurance question that you give people, right? if they don't understand why they are here, they know the tactical hows to do it,
right?
They will always burn out if they don't have a principle behind what they are doing. So now let's say in advertising, also it's not going to be intriguing to become a marketer, to become, selling insurance, right? So now you give them that information because you will now be the Joe Rogan potentially in their life.
Right.
You could change their life and they would have never heard from you because they were not searching
right.
for insurance salespeople.
Yep.
They were not searching for that. But you potentially put a message in front of them and now all of a sudden it's changed their life.
Yeah. And it's evergreen too. I mean, it doesn't go away. It's always gonna, it's like my YouTube channel is I was talking to somebody the other day. They said, where can I find your podcast? I said, only on YouTube, right? Like it's really like a vidcast if you want to be specific, but it's because I want to focus my efforts on that platform before we really put the stuff anywhere else. And plus, I mean, it's honestly, it's something that I do for fun at first, that I realize, man, I'm really able to make more of an impact and speak from that platform to the Coliseum rather than just having a few conversations here and there. What are some things that, like, let's get a little bit more specific. You don't have to give away all of your secrets, but like elaborate a little bit on, I mean, obviously everybody knows what digital marketing is, some social media, but elaborate like what are some of the things that you offer other businesses, or like what is your, I guess, strategy in the marketing world? Right. Without giving away your secret sauce.
Oh no, I give away all the secret sauce because when it comes down to it,
people won't do it.
Well, people aren't going to do it. They're not going to I'm not serving, my ideal client traits are not the people that want free content. So I'll give free content out because if it helps somebody, that's cool.
Yeah.
Now the people that potentially then start talking, the business owner who I actually want to do business with is going to be like, where'd you learn that from, or where'd you get that idea from? Well, let's just hire him or have his consulting and all that, because to come back to everything, when all that strategy is given out, whether it's how to communicate, it's different. The short answer is it's different because we'll go in, we evaluate a company top to bottom, right? We look at their employees, what the relationship is with their employees, their customer retention, right? What's the customer's experience? How can we automate, right? How can we make sure that their high-skilled employees aren't doing low-skilled tasks, right? And then it's, okay, now at this point, if you've qualified and all that straight, now let's start running advertising.
Right.
Because anything before that, if I start running advertising for you,
we don't have this.
Well, now you're going to lose your brand because although I'm building your brand on the front end, your back end is going to collapse.
Right.
Now, if there's obviously always going to be growing pains that companies are going to go through.
You can't eliminate 100% of it. But.
Right. And failures will come, right?
Yeah.
So that's always accepted. But in advertising, it's looking at a product or a service and going, okay, how can I communicate that to the people that is the ideal audience, right? And then using, like we were talking about before, using different hook points and everything like that, and giving them what they want. It's not like this annoying, people want to look at it as it's manipulating in the sense that I'm selling them something they don't want.
Yeah.
No, I'm giving you something you need.
Right. It's going to help
If you want to look at it as manipulation, go look at McDonald's. That's manipulation, right?
Right.
Like I'm giving our clients a connection to their potential clients because I believe in what they're doing.
Right.
I'm not going to go start, advertising for something I don't believe in.
Yeah.
So I truly believe that when I'm running these different campaigns and we break down where is your audience? How do we communicate with them? I'm going to allow data to prove all of that. And then I'm going to test. And then I'm going to scale. And then maybe it doesn't work. And we got to change a landing page.
Right.
We got to change, Instagram and Google, all the different type of platforms. Algorithms consistently change. Everyone knows that.
Yeah,
so
the
now,
rules of the game are always changing.
Now we got to do all of that consistently. Man. And it's always a consistent process.
Eric can't talk probably, and he's not mic'd up, so you couldn't hear him. But he'll nod his head, and he can approve. Was I not just talking about clearing up my messaging like yesterday, right? Like that is. I mean, and that is, and I guess that comes with a little bit of experience, right? Like you learn the things that there's things that you think you have to do, and then there's things you want to do, and then you start to learn, hey, there's things I want to do. The more I do them, I don't have to do these other things because this is kind of compensating or, you know, allowing my business to grow just from me doing what I want to do, which is a perfect example of what you see here and, you know, what I'm doing online and all of that stuff. And I originally had said, man, I'd never want to do that, but you don't know what you don't know, right? Like I don't like social media. Like I'm 31, I'm not 25. Yeah. Like not that that's like old or, you know, I'm too out of the social media game, but like I was using social media. It's funny because my wife and I will talk sometimes now, and she'll say, oh, did you see so-and-so's post on Facebook? And I'm like, babe, I see insurance agents after insurance agent after insurance agent after insurance agent, because I've changed that platform over time to, now I don't necessarily see my friend's stuff, man. I see insurance because that's Facebook knows that's what I'm doing on there. Like when I'm on Facebook, I'm working. We were kind of talking about that earlier. What I wanted to, you know, what I wanted to get to sort of is like on that marketing or on the back end stuff, right? Like, are you learning about their companies, their employees specifically to clear up the message? Like, is that the goal, to make sure that your message aligns with their vision and what they're actually, you know, putting out there?
Right. And you know, sometimes it changes, right? If a company grows and then all of a sudden we're realizing maybe their buy-in is too low. Like it doesn't make sense because these people that are coming in at a low price aren't actually taking action on it. We don't want to serve those people. Right. Well, now let's start looking at maybe a different demographic and things like that.
Right.
Going back to also you saying like now you're using it, imagine as you're calling recruits and it's just some random guy calling them. They don't want to work for somebody like that. The average Joe Schmo, someone that probably reminds them of their dad, not on social media. They want to go and like see somebody that's like hip and in communication styles, in business, because they don't want to look at somebody that reminds them of something that's not working. Right. They want to see somebody moving forward. Why? Nobody wants to work for their dad, you know, that's for sure.
So on a practical standpoint, because, and for me, again, that's what I love doing this, because I get to ask the questions that I want to ask, that I want to know. If I'm sitting on the other side of the computer and I'm you know, if I'm watching this on YouTube, there's things that I'm thinking and I get to ask them. And so one of the things would be, you know, from a practical standpoint, what advice do you have on like getting a clear message, right? I remember when I started selling my course, right, just recently, started selling a course, and you know, I met with the person that helped me create the course, and she was like, well, I didn't even know you had anything for sale. Like, she's like, oh, you do paid coaching for agents? And I'm like, well, yeah, you know, it's just kind of a side thing that I do because I want to connect with more agents, whatever. And she's like, well, I didn't even know that. So in other words, my messaging was not clear, and it still isn't 100% clear where I want it to be. What practical advice do you have for a business owner or insurance agent to, you know, really clear up their message?
It comes down, because I've fallen in that too, right? Especially when you're in the tactical side of everything. It's hard to sometimes then make sure you're backing up and you're evaluating the field and what's going on. But if you have a message, you should be saying it loud and saying it often, right? So if you offer something, make sure that it is the cheesy thing about you, right?
Cheesy thing, okay.
Yeah, you want it to be cheesy, right? Grant Cardone is 10X for a reason, baby. What does he sell? Things to get you 10X, right? So when you look at it like that, it's always your tag points that you're giving in a video.
Hey, that's the opener to this video. That right there was like, if I'm the real Bradley, I'm dropping a bomb on that. Hell that's huge. That's awesome.
That man's awesome. Yeah, meeting him in person was. Yeah, he's one of the guys that's very clear, but that also comes down to it, right? Where you're like, well, what message am I going to give? Whatever message you're giving as well, be transparently you. Yeah. Because these people, although they are through these cameras, they're going to see you in person at some point. And when they see you, don't be scared because you don't match what you're putting out. I meet people and it's just like, oh, yep, you're definitely that dude. You know, and it not even necessarily confidence, but if
I'm saying confidence comes from doing the things that you say you're going to do, or being the way that you say you are, whether through a camera or not. So
right.
So if you're acting in that way, your confidence will be shot when you go to meet these people in real life.
And I've seen it happen, man. It's so awkward.
Social media superstars collapsing,
And I mean, you might be someone too that you have to put on a facade because your personality type's different, and like that's cool, but that's where like long form stuff like this really helps people connect to their audience as well.
You said something too, like you love, talking with people and conversating and all of that stuff, but the moment you can get away and shut it down, you're all over it. And man, like I do a lot of events, a lot of conferences. One, because, well, I mean, the main reason because, dude, it's what's helped me. Like this is all comes from being at events, getting around a bunch of other people, bigger thinkers, all of that stuff has come from being at events. So I do a lot of events, and a lot of times as soon as I get a chance to shut it off, I'm like, I'm talking to my wife, I'm talking to somebody, and I'm just like, man, I'm exhausted. And it's not that you don't love being around all the people, but like sometimes you do. So that facade, if you will, is not, it's not even a facade. It's just like, you just gotta, sometimes you gotta be on, right? And which is, you gotta be on, and
then you gotta be good at being able to switch that if you start building something too, because so I mean Tommy's even bigger, right? So it's like when we'll go out and all of a sudden people know him, he can't be an asshole.
Right.
All of a sudden he's got to make sure that he's like still energetic.
Unless he's an asshole on social media, then he wants to be an asshole.
I mean, he still is. So it's like it's not too far off. But you don't want to meet a fan, whatever you want to call the people that respect you,
right? And
then them have a weird feeling, but like you said, thinking outward, your wife, kind of, loves to hate it.
The being obsessed thing.
So about it. That's kind of how, my girl is right now with that. And she struggled with it for a bit when she first met me, because she's like, I know how you are when you're with me, and I know how you are on social media and with your friends. But then when she moved in, it was a lot of like, yo, just stop talking to me. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I've been talking to clients. I've been researching, studying human psychology consistently. I've been doing this, problem solving, putting out fires. Like, I just want to come home and watch a podcast. Just for a second. Just give me a bit.
Fill the tank up a little bit.
Yeah, right. Or like the mornings. And it's also my personality type, which I learned years later. Like, everyone's got their personality type. But I think that's definitely huge, is making sure that you're not going to be the person completely disconnected. You got to be able to communicate that. And I think people will also see that, because they're like, oh yeah, like I also want to be alone sometimes.
Right. Yeah, it can't be like constantly in front of a camera, constantly around a bunch of people and blah, blah, blah. I gotta drill in on this a little bit, because I was saving this for last, so to speak. Like, this is one of the things that I think if I didn't have in my life, and I just think you have to have a circle, right? You have to have a circle, and I've got a pretty strong circle. I've got a good group of guys that I can lean on. Unfortunately, we're always slammed, so it's like, we might talk once a week, once a month.
Right.
We're always there if we need it. Whatever. So one of the things I recognize about you is you have a strong circle, and you've got a group of guys that you're always with, or seem to always be with, or whatever. But you're always there for each other. How important is that in your business, and like what's it doing? I mean, talk to the people essentially that don't have a circle, because this insurance business, when you're working remote and you're an independent agent or whatever, like it can be lonely, and you don't have that circle. And I didn't have it for a long time.
That just gave me goosebumps, man.
That's awesome.
That actually hits it. Where I'll start that answer off is, you first have to be okay with being alone.
Yeah. Okay.
Because when you go from that blue collar and you start trying to go towards a different venture, you're also going to lose a lot of friends. Okay. You do not have to accept your old circle.
That's good.
You have to break patterns. And to break patterns, sometimes it's going to be easier, I found, to back away. And I'm talking, I didn't listen to music for 3 years.
Wow.
I read books and even when I lifted, it was always a podcast.
Okay. Well, I guess, yeah. No, I always told people that I don't really enjoy music a whole lot because I'd prefer to listen to like the things that stimulate things that even if I'm like just barely even paying attention. But I interrupted. Go ahead, continue.
Well,
and talk to the people, man. Talk to people that need the circle, because that's why I do events, dude. That's why, you know, that's why I try to, you know, I'm building a Facebook community. Like, we have Health Insurance Hustlers, right? It's right here, the Health Insurance Hustlers Facebook group.
Okay,
and so, you know, trying to build a community that people can lean on, you know, that circle and whatever, but continue on the importance of that, man. Because I know you're strong about it. You talk about it often.
All the time. Yeah. And when it comes down to it, it's also just, I treat my circle just as if I was pursuing a female. I have to be the person that they want to be around first.
That's cool.
It irritates me because people will see my circle and they'll be like, yo, I want to roll with you. Like, let's hang out, blah, blah, blah. You know, you guys are killing it. And then I'm like looking at their feed and they're out partying. And I'm like, tell me why I would want to hang out with you.
Wow.
Right? Wow. Get the skills. Be the person. Now, if that's not you, if that circle's not you, that's fine. Don't change yourself to become something you will hate.
Yeah, right.
But be prepared, because my circle grew in the gym.
Yeah.
We all met in the gym at separate times. And now all of a sudden it's where we see each other most often, but we also...
That's funny, because I met this guy in the gym too, pretty much.
Yeah. But you got to treat it like it's also a relationship, in the sense of, we make sure that we're celebrating each other's birthdays. We're making sure that we're going out randomly. Yo, let's all get together, you know, quadruple date. You know, maybe there's an awkward straggler. You know, but it's like, we're never...
You were that awkward straggler for a while.
Oh, yeah. So. Dude, for sure. You know, and it's something that I think most people lack because they want to hold on to their old friends.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean they're bad people.
Right.
It means they don't have the same goals in mind. So why am I going to hang out with somebody that wants to talk about football when I have not watched a single down in probably 8 years?
Wow.
Now, it started off because I was a Browns fan, and being a Browns fan ain't easy, so I just gave up on it.
Shut it down. Yeah, whatever.
But so it's like the circle, man, it's big too, because you'll have times when you do get down, or your mindset shift, or maybe something happens in life, and I may not even go to the people in my circle to directly talk about that.
Right.
Because at a certain point also, your circle is not your therapist.
Wow.
Your circle is the people that you go around to uplift you and drive you.
Wow.
If you need a therapist, go to a therapist, not your friend, because at a certain point, if they keep repeating, now I'm not saying don't in general.
Right. No,
Let me get that clear.
Right.
But if, you know, Joe Schmo comes to me 4 times about the same problem, I'm going to stop answering your texts, and we're not going to see each other anymore.
Right.
You know, but I also give them that. I'll be upfront, and my circle knows me for this. And it's, you know, if they come to me with a problem, let's talk about it, or an irritation, whatever it may be.
Right.
It might not even be something big. And then I'll be like, all right, we got to stop talking about this. Don't ever come to me about this again. You know, we go out and fly out and see Dr. George Pratt. This is Rob Dyrdek's hypnotherapist.
Okay.
Right? We pay a lot of money to just make sure we get the help. You know, that's another big thing for a different conversation. But having a circle with the same goals and the same drive, but also consistently building that circle with people, because you never want to become comfortable. Right? So it also then goes into paying to be in circles.
Absolutely.
I don't, you know, you say you go to events. I don't think people understand that if you got even a large town, those people probably have their circles and they don't want new friends.
Yeah.
If their friends are working, why would they want new friends? So that's where you pay to get in a group of people that
mastermind group.
Exactly. And they're already driven, and they're going to help each other out, and they're also paying to be there, so they're that more committed to that circle, because they understand and respect everybody's time that's there.
That's huge. One of my mentors and good friends, he says there's 2 things that hold true with every person, right? It's that people move towards things that move away from them, right? And they only value what they pay for.
Yep.
And that's huge. I think you know, I think we downplay the importance of a circle. I mean, your circle is your friend. They're your friends, but you don't necessarily treat them just as a friend, because oftentimes our friends get the worst of us. And so what you're saying is that, you know, you're trying to be the best version of yourself in that circle, in your circle, and you know, obviously those are unpaid, but then you have the paid, which, I mean, hey, that's going to come natural. You're paying for it. You want it, like you're paying to be there. You're going to value it that much more. That's huge, man. And I think you know, I think that's what I'm helping to try to bring to the insurance community. It didn't always exist in the way that it does today. Thankful for digital marketing. Thankful for you know, the fact that we can connect on a bigger scale, and you know, super thankful for you dropping by today. Kind of last minute, you know, unannounced. We just had some time and said, hey man, let's make it work. So I appreciate them. Tell them where they can find you, and you know, all that good stuff.
So the best way to get a hold of me is Instagram, Cody_the Conqueror. Anywhere else, it's going to be content, honestly, that's distributed. You know, Instagram is my main platform. Hit me up on there with any questions. And yeah, I really do appreciate you getting a hold of me last minute, but I was pumped, so
yeah, man,
made it happen.
Well, this has been meaning to happen for a while, so I appreciate you stopping by, and
yes,
I know that there was a ton of value there. I think that, you know, if you can just take one or two of those things and apply it to your business and insurance, it's going to be a game changer for you. So thanks again for dropping by, and thank you guys for watching.